What is up, everyone? I hope everyone is doing all right. Welcome to Your First Website, Part 3. Previously in Part 1, we went over HTML and Bootstrap. Part 2, we went over CSS, and now we're at Part 3. And last but not least, we're at JavaScript. I hope everyone is having a great time right now. I know depending on where you are, it's either morning, afternoon, evening. So I hope everyone's having a good day no matter where you are starting your day. But I always like to start out asking people where they are currently viewing from. I think that's my favorite thing, how international Major League Hacking is. Hey, I hope y'all are doing good. If you see me like looking at a couple screens, I just have a couple things going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and also get the slides prepped for y'all. So excited to have y'all here. I think it's been a minute since I've live streamed, besides this week. So it's really exciting to have all you here for the journey alongside with me. Okay. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and kind of go over a little bit of my spiel. So if you've been here for the last two workshops, you'll have heard this beginning. It'll be a little familiar to you. But essentially, welcome to Your First Website, which is an introduction to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is part 3, so we're focusing on JavaScript. So a little about me. My name is Mara. I have been an MLH coach since November 2020, actually working right now full-time as a full-stack web developer. And I got my start using just basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And over the years, I had no idea it would land me in the position that I am luckily in now. So I'm a really big proponent for going back and learning these things. I think a lot of people will try to jump in really, really fast. But the basics are always a great way to learn, especially to see if that's something that you really, really want to pursue. So today, what we're going to be doing is pretty straightforward, I think. I'll intro a little bit. We'll go over, some JavaScript principles, and then we'll practice ourselves. That being said, the way that I've formatted this workshop is that we will first, I'll talk a little, then we'll go over some concepts. I'll use some like vocab words and I'll show some examples, but we won't practice yet. What I'm doing is I'm just priming you. I'm laying down the foundation. So before we get started, you kind of know like what we're getting into. And then even if you're like a little like, I don't grasp this completely. I don't understand this fully. That is a-okay, because we're going to go ahead and practice it. And that practicing is where we're really, really going to learn how to use it. Okay, so what is a website? If you're online on the internet, you've probably used the website. This one's pretty popular. It's Google. A website at the core of it is just a way to display information online. Just how like with the MLH website, it gives you all information of hackathons, jobs and interns, things like that. You can actually see the code behind every website just by checking that out. But if you want to know how you can do that, you just have to right click and press inspect. So if you haven't already, especially when you're learning websites, it's really interesting to just see what code they have underlying. So hey, it's good to see a familiar face, name. But I'm doing good. I'm really glad to be here. I'm so glad that you came back. You're here for the third one. Oh yes, you should be able to use Control-Shift-I to see inspect elements as well. So when you're coding your first website, there's 3 languages that we're going to talk about. We have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If we think about it in like the case of, let's say like a body, HTML is the skeleton. HTML is like the bare bones. It determines what's going to be on the page. Really, without HTML, you wouldn't really have much of a website, as the rest of these kind of add on to HTML. So HTML, skeleton. It's the bare bones. CSS is the skin. That's what's going to make it look prettier. So if you think Fortnite or Valorant or Minecraft, you have skins in those games, different ways to change your characters so they look different, look nicer, whatever. The CSS is going to be the skin that you put on top of the skeleton to make it look prettier. Last but not least, we have JavaScript. JavaScript is the muscles. The muscles is really cool because it allows for more user interaction in your site. It allows you to like beef up your website, give it a little oomph. So lost my mouse for a sec. So let's go over like some JavaScript basics that we had to go over before we really hash it out. Quick in the chat, what is everyone's experience with JavaScript? And if you have no experience with JavaScript, have you ever what's your experience with coding? So if in the chat you can share whether or not you have any experience in JavaScript or any experience with coding, that would be great. Oh, Wombo Combo, what is up? I love seeing familiar faces or names or Twitch handles or whatever you call it. I don't know. Oh, while we're also getting everyone's coding experience, I want to also redirect your attention down below. These slides, the GitHub, the Replit, everything that we're going to be doing is on that hackp.ac/YFW with Mara 3. 1 and 2 is the same URL except 1 and 2. That's also my Twitter. And then don't forget to check in. So WYF3 check-in is going to lead you to that page so you can check in for MLH. Ooh, let's see what some people's skill levels. Okay, Wombo Combo, intermediate, self-taught. You're saying beginner. I think learning is all relative. I'm sure you know a thing or two. Okay. Oh, I love Python. Is actually my first language that I fully understood. So Python and to me, JavaScript is like if Python and Java had a baby. So. Okay, the basics of JavaScript. I love it. Okay, so we have some experience. I'm loving that. So that's good because a lot of this is kind of the coding concept, the logic is pretty simple, but we'll kind of go over it. We're focusing more on syntax and how we can really apply that to the web. So if you coded in any other language, this is definitely gonna be familiar. Again, especially if you know Python or Java, but honestly, any programming language at the end of it, once you know one programming language, it's so easy to learn another. I mean, it's a little rough learning the syntax, but really the computational logic, the logic behind everything, that's the hardest part to learn. So what we're gonna be doing today is we are making we're gonna make a number guessing game. It's called high-low. We're going to use things like variables, if statements. We're going to have the user input. It's actually called prompt in JavaScript. We'll also be using the console log to print things. So we're going to first make a web game high-low using DOM. And then if we have time, we'll go ahead and make a web game using Mad Libs. I think high-low is a little bit more fun. But if you're wondering what DOM stands for, it's document, object, manipulation. It's basically a way for JavaScript to interact with HTML and change things going on. Okay, so first things, variables. If you've done some programming before, you know what variables are. Just in case for anyone who hasn't done any program, I'm just going to go over them very quickly. So just like in math, variables and code store information. So math, if we're solving for x, and then coding, we typically already know what x is. So for example, you can say x equals 10, and then you can say y equals x. And if we know math, we know coding, we know that y is now equal to 10. So that's why you'll see some of these things, a lot of this logic, very familiar if you've taken high-level math classes or even low-level math classes, to be honest. There's a reason why before computer science had its own department. It was in the math department. So one thing that I think it's unique to JavaScript is there's two types of way to declare variables. There's two types of way to tell the computer, hey, we have a variable. We have const and we have let. Const is for stuff that is constant. You are going to declare it once and you're never going to change it again. Okay? Then you have let. Let is you declare it and you're going to change it again. If we like go back, like there's technically you can just declare it with like var, but the reason that we have these two different categories is because when you're writing in code, I don't know if y'all have ever done this, but sometimes when you're in the middle of like figuring out your logic, or you have like 200, 300 lines of code, your variables start to go all over the place. The reason that const and let are so great is because it's really forcing you to think like, hey, I declared this variable. Do I want to change it later on or not? And it's forcing you to make that decision. So it's forcing you to make that decision, which is great because it leads to cleaner code. So when someone's reading your code, they go, oh, they use const here? Okay, that's like the only place that they're going to define const, or that's the only place they're going to define this const variable. However, they use let, they're like, okay, let me store that and think about that for later because I'm going to see that changed again. Thank you, A. Jackson, for sharing the check-in. Also, again, for anyone who's coming in late or anyone who hasn't already, make sure that you check in down below. All right, what's next? So variables, this is an example for like an error that you might see. So if you use if you declare a const variable and you try to like redefine it later on, you try to assign it to another value, try to give it another value, it's going to give you an error message. And if you just do let y, and then you never change it later on, that's also probably going to give you an error message being like, hey, why'd you make this let? This becomes more relevant when you're using TypeScript. TypeScript is essentially just like fancy JavaScript. Fancy JavaScript that requires you to be more specific. That's what I do in my day job. So, okay. So variables, we're going to start with variables. We're gonna start with two different types: strings and numbers. Quick show in the chat. Who knows what a string is? Just want to make sure. Like, who has prior experience with strings? Just, I know sometimes it's a little tricky when you first learn. For example, when I first learned how to code, I was technically in 10th grade. I took an APCS principles. No, APCS class. Oh, AP Computer Science A class, and that was all in Java. But I didn't understand a lick of coding whatsoever, so I had no idea what a string was. That was something I did not learn until I later took my first like college programming class. So, okay. A string is a sequence of characters or an array of characters. Yeah, I'll go with that. It's essentially like, to simplify it and dumb it way down, it's essentially text, and you'll find it in between quotes. For example, if I declare a variable called name and I make it Mara, put it in quotes, it's a string. Also notice that it's const because I only define my name once. I only got one name, so. And then if I do like const num of fingers equals to 10, because I got 10 fingers, that's going to be a number. Notice the lack of quotes. And then the last one, tricky, our variable name tricky, it's 10, but in quotes. So it's in the quotes, it's a string. That's a good like rule of thumb, especially when you're starting. Case sensitive, the variable, yes, it is case sensitive. So if you have capital M Mara, it's not equal to lowercase m Mara. Wombo combo is right. If you're thinking of like an array of characters, I think in JavaScript it's not like that big of a deal. But when you start going into other languages like C, char character is actually like a different variable type. But I think if we're starting really simple before we like something really simple is essentially just text. I love how active y'all are. Okay. Next, we have functions. Functions, I'm not going to go over too much. We're not really going to make too many functions of our own unless we have time at the end. But functions are a way to reuse code. This is how you would this is the syntax for writing a function in JavaScript. So for anyone who is already familiar with how to write a function, but essentially a function allows you to kind of box up some code that you've written, and then you can call it later on with the function name. This is also great because you can call, if you use libraries, which are coding resources, you can also call a function that someone else made, and it makes it really easier for you to code because you can just reuse their code. Oh, and if you're I already know functions and you want to try something cool and fresh and funky with JavaScript, definitely check out arrow functions. I'm not going to talk about them too much because I think it's there's going to be a lot going on, but if you want me to, I'm very happy to at the end of the workshop as well. We can also get some practice into that. Okay. The reason I bring up functions is because we're going to be using them. We're not necessarily going to be defining them, but we're going to use other functions that come, kind of pre-installed with JavaScript. So one example is console.log. If you're familiar with cout in C++ or system.out.println in Java or print in Python, it's essentially the same thing. What console.log is doing is it's logging in the console whatever you put in between the parentheses. So if you remember, the function allows you to pass through a parameter. A parameter is some data that would be used later in your in that function code. And so console.log is a function that takes anything as a parameter, okay? Anything as a parameter, an argument, and then goes ahead and spits it out into our console. So for example, if we were going to do that code in the dark blue, const x equals 10, console log x, that would go ahead and print out in let's call it aquamarine. It would print out 10 in the light blue aquamarine on the right that you see. And then if you do const y equals 5 and then you const log y, it's going to print out 5. And then if we want to get a little fancy with it and we decide to do x plus y, it's 15. So this is really great. This is really great so we can see the values, because otherwise a lot of this stuff will be happening off the scene. So if you want to console log debug a little bit, especially when I was first beginning, this was a really easy way to debug because it's very little entry and you can see exactly what you want and you can put whatever string you want, whatever text to describe it. And honestly, I still use this in my day-to-day. Okay, another function that we'll be using is prompt. So this is something that JavaScript has as long as it's also connected to an HTML web page, which we will have, so don't worry. But prompt is essentially an alert. If you're familiar with whenever you have a pop-up on your phone or a pop-up in that top part of your web browser, just a notification, whatever. It's an alert and a notification essentially that has a little text input. So because we're playing a number guessing game, we're going to be using that. And something that I want to mention now is that functions sometimes will spit back out. Sometimes we'll spit back out code. So if you think about it, let's say this is your function. Your function is a black box. You don't know what's up. This is your input, okay? You give your input. You give your input into the function. Okay, it's a black box. Something happens to the input, and then you get this output. The important thing about like that little demonstration is that this output, it needs to be saved somewhere. You either save it or you lose it. So a way that you save is by using variables. So if you don't assign it to a variable, this just gets lost. It's gone. But if you assign it to a variable, you're like, oh hey, that variable, let me go ahead and call it like if I have the prompt function, and I have it print out like, what's your name? And then I, as the user, input, let's say this is my name. Let's see if you can see it. I input my name. Then it comes out here. Then if the computer wants to know it, it needs to save this somewhere. So I went ahead and I saved it to the variable called name, the constant variable called name. And then I can use it to print out later on. I can use it to console log. So we'll be using prompt very briefly. It's way easier than I'm explaining it. Another concept that we're going to be using is an if statement, but I want to stop really quick and I want to check, how is everyone doing? Is what I'm saying making sense? Is there anything confusing so far? I just want to give a little bit. Also, I want to preface and put this out here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to send it in the chat. I'll kind of look at it as we're going on. And this workshop is for y'all. So if at any point you have a question, please let me know. Okay. Another concept that we'll be doing is an if statement. If statements, if blocks, they are in all programming languages. Yeah, they're in all programming languages. They're also in everyday life. One example that's also it's coding and everyday life is, imagine you're signing on to your Twitch account. Okay, you're on Twitch, you're signing on to Twitch. It's it prompts you for your password. So if your password is correct, you're going to sign in. Else if it's not correct, then you move on to the next one. Else if your password is an old one, it's going to tell you please try again. That's an old password. Else, so if it's neither of those two, if it's not correct and it's not an old one, else it's just going to tell you your password is plain old incorrect. Okay, I love this wombo combo, combining both if statements and functions. Also, a fun fact, if you don't know, this kind of fake code, okay, this pseudocode is called pseudocode, and it's a way that, especially when you're learning, also whenever you're planning out code, I pseudocode all the time. It allows you to kind of plan out the logic without getting too bogged down or too worried about the syntax, about what semicolons need to happen and what curly brackets do you need. It allows you to really just focus on what is the code doing itself, so you can prepare more ahead of time. Aw, you added on. Love that. Every once in a while I want to get one of those mugs that said if coffee, drink. But basically the syntax of this is if, in parentheses, oh wait, I have a slide for this. Oh, I clicked too far into the slide. This is the slide for this. So the syntax for this is going to be if, and then in parentheses, you have your condition. Then you have curly brackets, and then you put whatever code you want. The code that you want to run is going to be in the curly brackets after the condition. And so it's going to go check for condition 1. If it's true, then it's going to run that code and then skip the rest of these. However, it's false, it's going to move on to the else if. It's going to see if it's true, run that code underneath. If it's false, it's going to move on to the next one. Else, that's the last one. So the first two are false, then else has to happen. Then it's going to run the code in there. You don't necessarily need all three of these. You can use any combination of if, and else if if else or if else if else. The big thing is you need to have if. If is what starts it. So when we're talking about if statements, something that's worth mentioning is a new type of variable. So we've already talked about strings and we've talked about numbers. Now we're going to talk about Booleans. Okay. To be honest, brownie points to whoever knows why it's called a Boolean. I've just never looked that up. But a Boolean is essentially true or false. Okay, that's it. Those are the only two values, true or false. Otherwise, it's null and doesn't exist. True or false. So for example, again, this is where, I think Wombo Combo said it best. Yeah, this is where CS is a over glorified math degree. So when we're talking about conditionals, it's really easy to show with numbers. For example, if I do 10 less than 5, that's going to be false. 10 is more than 5. If I do 10 more than 5, it's true. If I do 10 less than 5, it's false. This one doesn't seem too practical because you're like, duh, I already knew that. I could just give it false or true. But when we're going to be working with our high-low number guessing game, if our player's guess is higher than the answer, then we'll be like, hey, player, you guessed too high. Or if it's lower than the actual answer, we'll go, hey, player, you guessed too low. So as we play around with variables, it'll help out. So less than, more than, like less than, greater than, if you've done that in math class, this is pretty straightforward. Okay. Next, this is like kind of the tricky part with comparison. We have the equals, okay? So whenever you're programming, one equal sign is to assign. One equal sign is used to define. You're assigning a value if you're using one equal sign, okay? But if you want to compare, you add another equal sign, or you add two. So someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is just a JavaScript thing. So in most programming languages, you only have two equal signs, okay? Two equal signs, and that's it. If you're using JavaScript, you can have up to 3 equal signs. So if you use just in JavaScript, okay, the only difference between 2 and 3, in JavaScript, if you use 2 equal signs, you can have a string be equal to a number, okay? But once you use 3 equal signs, that string is no longer equal to that number because that third equal sign is checking to see if the type is the same. That's a JavaScript thing. I'm pretty sure. Unless someone's seen another programming language, so let me know. Ooh, history lesson, let's go. A Boolean is named after George Boole, an English mathematician who first formulated Boolean algebra, a type of algebra in which the values of the variables are true or false. Thank you, Sami. Sami? But I appreciate it. I love a little history lesson. So, appreciate it. Okay. So this is an example of like actual code. So I have a constant variable named name. I'm only going to define it once. And the way I define it is I'm going to prompt and give the message, what's your name? So when I run the code, a prompt, an alert with a text input is going to show up on the screen and it's going to say, what's your name? And me, being me, I'm going to type Mara. So then we're going to continue down the code, okay? Then it's going to see this if statement. And it's going to check to see, is name equal to Mara? And since I, input Mara, and that's equal to Mara, it's going to go ahead and print, that's my name. Otherwise, if you obviously didn't have the same name as me, then it would just go ahead and console log whatever your name is. Okay. Any questions so far? We just did a chunk. That being said, I know I hate slides too, but I just want to prime y'all so that way we're not like in the thick of the code and then you're like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. I have no idea what to do. My eyes are glazing over. I am a deer in the headlights, because that's what I personally do. So I want to help like alleviate that. I hope that helps. Okay. Again, I'm just leaving a little space for if there's any questions. If there's not any questions, no worries. If there are, feel free to send them whenever I'm down to like repeat anything, go back a slide, whatever. Okay, so another thing is a while loop. This is, I think this is in every programming language. A loop, if you think about it, so if you think about like a loop-de-loop, you just keep going over and over and over and over again. And usually like with the loop-de-loop, there's something like you go in, obviously you start the code, and then that loop-de-loop gives you an exit. So there's two main types of loops that you'll typically hear talked about. You have a while loop and a for loop. We're gonna focus on the while loop just because it's easier to focus on one. So a while loop says, while condition, do this. So while that condition is true, you're going to do whatever's in that code. And after all that code finishes, it's going to check the condition again and make sure it's still true. And then I'll do the code again. And it'll keep going over and over and over again until at one point the condition is false. And then it's like, okay, we're done. I'm done. Bye. So an example of this is say, while I'm driving, play a podcast. And so while I'm driving to work, while I'm driving to the grocery store, it's playing a podcast. But say I get to the parking lot, I put the car in park, turn off the car, podcast over, because I'm no longer driving. So that's an example using pseudocode. So if we talk about actual code, here's like an example of this. So while condition, do this. First, I'm going to let x be 5. The reason I do let instead of const is because I'm going to be changing what x is later on. While x is equal to 5, I'm going to prompt, what is x? And then that's when I allow the user to redefine what is x. So if you look into the right for an example, where's my mouse? You'll see I get prompt once. What is x? I'm nice. I say 5. So it prompts me again. What is x? And I go, 5. And then it prompts me again. What is x? And then I give it 10. And so it's just finished this line of code, and then it's going to go back up and check, hey, is this still true? And it's not. It's not true. So it says, okay, well, I'm not going to do the code here. I'm going to skip from this curly bracket, skip all the way down to this curly bracket, and then continue on with the code. And then it's going to print out x is no longer 5. Ooh. Okay. Wombo combo. Apparently there's 4 loops in JavaScript. While, for, do while, and for in. Yes, I definitely, what do I use? I think I use TypeScript, and I have used for of, which as far as I'm concerned, I don't know the difference between that for of and for in. But yeah, there are a couple different loops you can play around with it. As long as you know like the logistics for for and while, everything else makes more sense. Oh yeah, and the difference between these, like especially the for in and the regular for loop, is, I'm gonna send an example in the chat. So for variable in, let's say like an array, if you see in the chat, for var and array, that basically says like you're going to iterate between the different variables in the array, the different like elements in the array themselves. Alternatively, if you're doing a for loop, you would give it three things. Say less than 5, I plus plus, and I also, okay. So this is an example. Yeah, this is how I prefer to do it. When I was using Python, I would use that a lot. But this is the other, I think, more common version of the for loop. So for, this is a little bit of a tangent. For let I in 0, that first condition is like, it's gonna run at the beginning of your for loop. Typically use this to reset, or set a counter, okay? Then that second chunk, the I less than 5, that's your condition. You're gonna keep iterating until that's false, okay? While it's true, you keep going. Then that third one, I plus plus, is what's gonna happen at the end of the for loop every time. So after the code's been run, you're gonna increase I by 1. So yeah. Let's see what it says. I'm not sure if there are more programming languages except Ruby. In Ruby, the operator is equal, 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 and it will return false if the operands are different types. You are so right, and I'm glad you got that. So if you actually notice, while x equals 5, that will actually have a problem because x is going to be a string because you prompt it, and 5 is a number. So those actually won't equal. You caught me there. I was hoping I could just change that afterwards, but you caught me. So I didn't know that also happened in Ruby. So that's cool. You taught me something. Thank you. Okay. Could you do Booleans in arrays? Yes. If I understand your question is, can Booleans be in arrays? Yes. And can null be an array? Yes. You can make an array of anything. Okay. I'm trying to think if that's something I want to say. Yeah, in the very basic sense, at least. If you don't get too in-depth, you can essentially make arrays out of anything. Okay. You just have to look at why you'd want to do that. Okay, so now we're actually going to get to the fun practice portion where we're actually coding and not just listening to me talk about slides. So what are we doing? We are doing a high-low number game. Essentially, I'm sorry, I'm a little dehydrated. My mouth is dry. I might take a quick 2-minute break. So we're doing a high-low number guessing game. The way this game works, the rule. Okay, wait, let's go back and let's do this. And I'll fix my code. I'll fix my slide on here. Oh my God. My husband brought me my water bottle. I guess he watches the stream. Or maybe he just overheard me. Anyways, oh, that was really nice. I have water now. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix this really quick. So the way we would actually fix this is something simple as that. I'm gonna present this again. Okay. I'm gonna mute myself and drink some water really quick while y'all look at this difference. But also, shout out to my husband. Also, if y'all haven't drank water, please drink water. So, water break for all of us. If you have a water bottle near you or your glass of water, go grab it. Let's drink some water. Okay. So, let's talk about this while loop. Yeah. Int in Python is the same thing. So if you're comparing it to Python, it's the same thing. Okay. So, what Sami, shout out to Sami. what they brought up was that equal not just compares the value, but compares the type as well. So as I mentioned earlier, prompt always returns a string. It always gives back a string, okay? So if I ask, what is X? If I ask what is X and I put this here, the user inputs that, X is now the string, so quotes 5. The way I can kind of make sure that it still works is I can do something called typecasting. So basically there's a function in JavaScript and many other programming languages where I say number and then I feed it whatever the variable is, and if it can, it'll turn this string into a number. So basically it's saying like, oh, do you have a string that's 5? I'm doing that because there's quotes around the 5. You have a string that's 5. Let's just make it string. And then once you cast that, then you'll have the types be the same. So you can use that 3. Wombo Combo, I'm going to let you in on a secret. We're all beginners, you know? We're all learning. I feel like there's something that we can all learn every time. Okay. Let's go back. High, low. Okay, these are the rules. This is pseudocode, okay? Pseudocode is just a fancy word for logical English, specific English. So high, low. First, we pick a number. This number is the answer. The player then guesses a number. This is a game you might have played when you were little, or maybe when you weren't little, just with like a friend, and you just do it through like a voice, like, I'm thinking a number 1 through 10, guess. That's essentially what we're doing. 3, the computer is going to say whether the player's guess was higher, lower, or the same as the computer's number. And then we're going to repeat steps 2 and 3. Guess how we're going to repeat? With the loop. We're going to repeat steps 2 and 3 until the numbers are considered the same. So let's think about that in code. So first, you're going to assign the variable. I'm going to be honest, this game is probably about 10 lines of code. It's very, very simple. First, we are going to assign a variable. That's the answer, okay? Then we're going to prompt the user. We're going to use the JavaScript prompt function and then save the answer to the variable. That's like the guess. Then we'll use an if statement to see if the user, if the guess is greater than, less than, or equal to the answer. Then we'll contain it all into a while loop until the user is right. So we'll do while the guess and the answer aren't the same. We'll do the while loop. And then bonus, instead of 1, instead of just assigning a variable, we're going to make it a different random number every time. That's going to be our last step, just because while we're building the game and we're testing it out, it's much easier to know what the answer is. Okay. And, I went back a slide. Going forward a slide. So now we're going to do it. Go ahead and go to hackp YFW with Mara 3. That's going to bring you to my GitHub, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to switch what I'm sharing real quick. If I know where my mouse is. I think the hardest thing about having dual monitors, because let's be real, life is not hard if you have 2 monitors. But the hardest thing is I lose my mouse constantly. I need like one of those like giant mouses, or like when you shake it, it turns red. Okay. Okay, we're about to pull this up together. Okay. So you should be, I'm gonna make this a little bigger for me at least. Okay. So you should be here at the GitHub, and then you're gonna click here to see the REPL. I'm gonna take another water break. You may be like, wow, Mara, that seems like a lot of water, but it's actually not, because I don't think I've drank from this bottle in 3 hours. Don't be like me. Drink water. Stay hydrated. Okay, can everyone can you just give me something in the chat to let me know whether or not you're on the REPL? So that's this page essentially. Whether or not, just let me know, are you on this page? Oh, something that's cool that I haven't. Oh. Actually, Mara, there's this thing called Windows Power Tool that gives you a ton of stuff, and one of those is, I don't know how to say that, tab sir, and it shows your mouth very well. You see, however, I am using a Mac. Left control. I don't know if these feel like window things. Yeah, that did not work on the Mac. But I might do that on my work laptop. No, I think there's some setting in the Mac too where if you shake your mouse, it makes it turn big so you can locate it. Unless I'm lying, in which case also valid. Okay, sounds like we got some people on the REPL. Yes, so make sure that you've gone from the GitHub, you've gone ahead and clicked this down here, that link that says click here to see the REPL. We want to go to the REPL, and then we want to fork it. I have to figure out how to fork it really quick. Okay, so you guys might have a different view than me, but the way I'm forking it is I go ahead and I go to this name spot right here, I click it, and then I don't think you guys have this view, but I'm gonna fork it right here. So fork. And then I'm gonna name this GWH Jan 2022. No, 23. Dang. We're in 2023. Oh my god, I was writing my journal today and I was like, January 12th, 2023. Yeah, time is going by way too fast. Okay, so what we're gonna go ahead and do is we are going to go to game.js. This is where we're coding. So okay, so this is gonna take a little bit longer, but I think it's worth it. I'm gonna have y'all code for me. So the way I'm gonna ask y'all for a line of code and then send it in the chat, and then I'll go ahead and type it up. So first thing is create a constant variable called answer that is assigned to the number of your choosing. Whoever sends me their line of code the fastest, that is the number that I will be using. So okay, love this. I'm sorry, Margie. I'll think about the number 7. I will. Number 7's a good one, to be honest. You're only a second grader. Okay. However, instead of ans, I am going to do answer just because I prefer full word variable names. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. It's more about readability. It's subjective. Okay. So that's step 1. I don't know why I didn't number the rest of these, but step 2 is to get the user's guess. So, Wombo Combo. How do I get the user's guess? Because you had something kind of similar. I would tweak it a little bit. Because there's input is a Python thing. We want to use prompt. So yeah, but Wombo Combo, what you're doing was close to what I wanted for the guess. So getting that user's guess is going to be, okay, 4 not found. Hey, Potter fan. I was for a brief moment, I was like, oh, what if I did a really what if I did like a British accent? And then I remembered that these are VODs, that this live stream is going to turn into a VOD that people can see. And I was like, ooh, maybe I don't want to embarrass myself that much over on the internet. Okay. So, yes. So there's a couple things here. One, I'm making it a guess. Oh, no, wait. I don't want it to be a guess. So, I don't know how to pronounce that. A mom. I'm going to call you a mom for now, unless you want to correct me, and then I'm very happy to retry it again. So, I originally made this a const, but that doesn't quite make sense because we're going to be redefining it every time we prompt the user. So I'm going to go ahead and make that let. And then I'm going to keep calling this guess just because it makes sense to me logically. I'll keep saying guess. And then we do capital N. We do capital N number, and we do prompt. Okay, so prompt takes in an argument for the message, whatever string you want. What message should we do? You're right. You are. I want to let you know you are right. But I think for now, I just want to... For now, the point is kind of teach the difference between let and const, just because I think people can use var for whatever. And so sometimes people get a little, they'll just default to var because that's the easiest. Okay. Is that Abid? Or, yeah, it's not Abid or Bid. I'm so bad at pronouncing things. But this, okay, it's going to be enter a guess. So let's go ahead and let's run this code. Hopefully it works. Is it working? It's not working. Let's try to separate this whole. Let's take off the number thing for now. I don't think that has to do with that. Why are you not? This should have a little prompt. Let me check to see if my... Okay, no one look. I'm gonna go see the, how do I want to do this? I am going to see the original code, which I will hide from y'all, just because, not because I'm hiding secrets from you, but because I want you to truly learn, and I think you will. But I just want to make sure that I am... Okay, here we go. Sorry. Open the web page. Oh, do you not see this on my screen? Oh, how interesting. You cannot see this. So let me go ahead and actually I'm going to represent and then share my whole screen so that way you can see this. Okay. And then I gotta, okay. So I refresh, enter a guess. I can guess whatever. It doesn't matter right now. Okay. So then I'm gonna go ahead and put number back here. Actually, I'm gonna put it below. The way I had it before is valid. The only thing is that, especially when people are first learning how to code, putting functions inside functions gets a little confusing. So I'm just gonna do it like this. So to test it, I think we'll just have to refresh this. And then you'll notice now you have a text input. Okay, now you have a text input, you can do whatever you want. But, for testing purposes, this is just testing purposes, I'm going to put an alert to show me what my guess is, just to make sure it shows properly. So if I refresh and I do 15, and it prints out 15. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and also zoom in for y'all. Okay, let me know how is the size of my screen, just because now I'm using like the monitor. So let me know how the size of my screen and how y'all are doing so far. I'm gonna move this comment, or I'm gonna move this right. Okay, sounds like I'm not getting like complaints or anything like that, so I'm gonna say it's good. Okay, so next up, again, this game is very, very short. Next up, we need to check to see whether or not it's the answer. So we need to do that if statement. Who wants to contribute to the if statement? Also, make sure that like your prompt and your alert is working. You may need to open a new page, which you can do by opening a new tab right here, and then just use like refreshing that tab. Then that little like alert should come up. Okay. Let me know if you need me to explain any line of code or anything like that. But please let me know how should I write the if statement? I'm trying to decide like what angle do I want to drink this water from. So it's more, I show off like my cooler stickers. This one is a sticker that I got from Athena Hacks. It's actually a holographic sticker, and it made me love stickers 10 times more. Also, Athena Hacks was like my second hackathon, and I went with like my roommate. We like flew to California, which was like crazy. But the sticker has memories. Yeah. It's also where I saw my husband for the first time in the United States. Oh, cheesy. But what if statement do we want to have here? What if statement? So we want to have it, we'll eventually put the while loop here, but for now, we'll have an if statement. Okay. Ooh. Let's go. So if guess, okay, you revise yourself. So is guess is greater than answer. What do we want to do? What do we want to do there? Inside that if statement, what line of code do we want? Imagine if I actually did not know how to code this and I was like, I'll teach a whole workshop and I'll get the people learning to code themselves. But fear not, I actually do have all the answers on the GitHub in another branch. So try not to look at it. I trust y'all. So what do we want inside this if statement? What do we want to do? Do we want to prompt a new guess? Okay, we'll start off. Alert, your guess is larger than answer. I think that's also valid, and then later on you can prompt, but just to have less like notifications pop up, there's less clicks for the game, I'm gonna go ahead and use Margie's prompt. Guess lower. I'm also like biased to double quotes. I have no idea why. Single quotes are valid. I'm just a double quote girly. Okay. So then let's go ahead and we'll repeat that logic for the opposite. So, there's also one thing missing from this. That thing that's missing, what's missing? So I'm prompting, but what am I not doing? I'm prompting, but what am I doing with what happens? Yeah, so I'm receiving a new value, and I need to assign that to guess. So I need to save the return of the prompt. Look at y'all got it. Okay, and the way we're gonna do that is we're just gonna do guess, and we'll do guess. And then just because I just wanna do this all in one line, I'm gonna do number, opening parentheses, and then at the end, right before the semicolon, I'm gonna do closing parentheses. So this is me saying like, hey, take whatever the prompt is and just make it a number. So make sure that prompt and then that message, that line that says prompt is inside those parentheses. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm also gonna go ahead and alert guess here, just for us, you know? Okay. Save that. Then let's go ahead and test it. So enter a guess. I know the answer is 19, but I'm gonna do 20. And it told me to guess lower, which is right because 20 is greater than 19. Okay, and then if I guess lower, nothing happens because that's the end of the code. All we're doing is checking if once, and then we move on. Okay, and here's one more thing that we can add. We can add an else. So else doesn't need the parentheses. And instead of a prompt, because we don't necessarily need another input, we can put down an alert. Ooh, put the semicolon in the wrong place. So let's just go ahead and let's run that. I have to refresh the page. Enter a guess. I'm just gonna put down 19. And it says correct. So that works. Okay. So now, right now, we have this number guessing game, which is like cool. It's great. You just get one guess. It actually, you technically get 2 guesses, but it doesn't do anything with the second guess. So now we want to make it loop. Now we want to make it loop. How do we make it loop? What would we do? What would the loop statement be? Objectively, this side of the stickers is cooler, but it's like not a comfortable way to drink. I should have thought about that when I put these on. Okay, Margie, let's go. Let's go. Okay, so while guess is not equal to answer, I'm doing two equal signs because I wanted to do so. I'm doing the strict comparison using also comparing types in JavaScript, which apparently is a JavaScript and Ruby thing. So I'm replacing one of those equal signs with an exclamation point, which means not. Okay, but I still have the other 2 that check to see if this type is the same as well. So if you see me doing an extra one, that's why. Okay. Also, fun fact, when I was making this, I completely forgot about the whole type situation. So this condition was always true, and I just had to delete the repo because I kept having the prompt show up and it just like would not stop showing up to the point I couldn't edit my code and fix it. So yeah, so make sure you never want, there's something called an infinite loop. An infinite loop means a while loop that will go on literally forever because the condition will never be false, will never turn false. You don't want that. That's bad. Okay, so let's refresh. Let's enter a guess. I know the answer is 19, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do 15. So I'm supposed to guess higher, so I'll guess 18. Supposed to guess higher. I'll do 20. Supposed to guess lower. Let's do 30. I could do whatever I wanted. And it's gonna keep telling me to guess lower until, you know, now I decide, I'm like, I'm gonna get the right answer. What happened? How come it didn't tell me that I was correct? Does anyone know why it didn't tell me that I was correct? How come this line of code, how come it didn't get executed? Also, Wombo Combo, you're right. That infinite while loop was, you just shut down your computer. You just use it. Okay, so this line doesn't show because the loop breaks when I hit the right input. So what I'll do is, instead of making this part of the else, which was more relevant when this was just like an if thing, I'm going to go ahead and put it down below after the while loop, because I know that if it breaks outside the while loop, I know if it breaks and finishes the while loop, then it's correct. So let me not hide that part of the code. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. And then I'm gonna refresh, enter a guess, 19, correct. We love that. Okay. Let's see what is left. I think that's essentially it, but let's make this a little more interesting. Let's make the answer a little bit more interesting. Can someone, feel free to Google this too, but can someone tell me how I can get a random number between 1 and 100 in JavaScript? Does anyone know how to get a random? Feel free to Google, okay? You could 100% Google how to get a random number 1 to 100 in JavaScript, because remember y'all, Googling is a coding skill. Yes, I mean, I like those. The one thing I would say is you still have to ask for the input. You have to prompt the user too. But I like these. These are good, like, good prompts. Range 1 to 100, I think also if you put parentheses instead of the square brackets, that's the thing in Python that will return an array 1 to 100. So, yeah, math random, and then math. Okay, so we got a couple things here. Math random 1 to 100. I don't know if that works. Maybe it does. Generate a random number using math random, then using the floor function to make it in range. And then Margie says math floor math random 101. Okay, so we're kind of using all of these. I think I'm gonna show this one just because this is the most similar to what I want to do. What I'll be doing is math random. What this does, it's gonna generate a random number. Yes. GMP. It will give you a random number between 0 and 1. So just to show you that, that's going to be, I'm just gonna save that, refresh. This first number, if you notice here, it is 0.724. It's a bunch of decimals. Okay, we don't really care about that. We want to make that into a number between 1 to 100. So one thing that we want to do, that we want to move it over 2 decimal points. So the way that we're going to do that is we are going to multiply it by not 101 but 100. Okay, We'll save that, and I'll show you what that does. Okay, I do not care about this. Okay. Okay. I made a grave error because I don't know what the answer is right now. So I'm gonna refresh it so we can redo the code. Is the 101? Maybe it is. I'm gonna do 100 just because I think that's like a round number. But I'm going to add 1. And then I'm gonna do map floor. Okay, we're gonna ignore this tab because I kind of killed it. But, so basically what's going on here is you get a random number between 0 to 1. Okay, you want it to not be a decimal. You want it to be between, like, you want it to be between 1 and 100. So what I'm doing is I am multiplying that by 100. So that way it is, you know, between 0 and 100, 0 and like 99.99. Then I'm going to add 1 to it. So then it's actually 1, like it's 1 to 199. And then what floor does is it cuts out all the decimals. So instead of all those random things, we're just going to have 1 or whatever. Yeah, and we can, yeah, I am going to put that 1 actually outside. Thank you, Abid. Okay, so if I run this, I open in a new tab, hopefully. See, it's going to give me 90. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to guess 90 because why try? Have a lot of alerts there. But I'm going to refresh this again, and now it gave me 25. Okay, so we'll do 25. Okay, now I am also going to clean up all these alerts. I don't need this alert. I don't want the answer alert. Okay. So this is the game right here. We're gonna play it, and I'm going to I'm gonna binary. No, actually, for this first round, I want y'all to just like send your favorite numbers in chat, and what we'll do is we'll see if we can guess it that way. So send your favorite numbers in chat, and we'll play around. Okay, so I'll run that. So it refreshes. Refresh. Okay, send your favorite numbers in the chat, and that is what we will guess. And you can send more than one number. I'll just do them whatever order that I get them. Also, there's a little. Okay, Marty says 29. It's lower than 29. That's actually that was a pretty good guess. Okay, Demfushi says 7. So it's between 7 and 29. Say 13. It's between 13 and 29. Say 18. It's between 18 and 29. 18 and 29. Those are only so 9. I don't know, like 8 guesses. I can't do math. Okay, let's do 23. Lower. 20. It's lower than that. So if it's not 18 and it's not 20, what is it, y'all? If it's not 18 and it's not 20, yeah, 19. Look at us go. And oh, that's such full circle because that was like our original answer that we hard coded in. Isn't that fun? Okay, then I'm gonna show you all another technique that usually helps me get in like the least amount of guesses. This is called binary search. Or it's not binary search. It's binary. So what I do is I take the whole range, 1 to 100, and I split it down the middle. Okay, so that's 50. I guess 50. Now my range is 1 to 50. So I'm gonna go down the middle, 25. So now I know it's between 25 and 50. So I'm gonna go to like 37. Okay, between 25 and 37, so I'm gonna go for 31. Between 25 and 31, so I'm gonna go for 28. That's correct. And theoretically, like this is guaranteed, like this is, if you have a plan, it's like the least amount of guesses because it takes off like half of your range every single time. So if you're ever wondering how to like cheat at this number guessing games, that's how you do it. Okay, so we went hard. We did this. Oh goodness, now we have the prompt. Okay, so 19. Okay, now this wants to work. I could take number guesses because I'm trapped until we learn what this is. It's 45, 44. Okay, it's 44. Okay. So now first thing what I'm going to do, so I don't keep getting these random prompts, I'm going to comment out this code. And I'm going to comment this line in. So I just went from game.js and I moved on to index.html. So now we have all the logic for the game. Okay, that's all in JavaScript. A-okay, got it down. Now what we're doing is we are going to make this into a web game. It may not be super pretty, but it will be a web game. And I'm also gonna go back to sharing just my tab instead of the whole screen. So go ahead and go to index.html, comment out the script source game.js, and go back to 20 and uncomment script source script.js. Going to do right here, perfect. Okay, now we're here. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna let you all code. What is the title for my game? Can someone give me the HTML line of code for the title of my game? You know, hopefully y'all remember. If y'all don't, that's okay. I'll be walking you through most of this. I say most of this as if I will not literally be here for all of it. Okay. And also, okay. So what is the title of the game in HTML? What is the title of this game in HTML? I just want to see, like, how much do y'all remember? Okay, I'm going for the first one. So this is what's showing up on the screen. This is going to be guess the number. And then for the title in the head, like the metadata, it's going to be number guessing game. So then if I refresh this, we'll see two changes. One is that up here, it says number guessing game, and here it says guess the number. There is very limited, there's very limited, whatchamacallit. There's very limited lines of code in this HTML file. Also, if you missed half the stream, like, no worries. What we're doing right now, if you want to catch up, is go to the link down below, not the check-in, but the hackp YFW with Mara 3. If you go there, and for anyone who like missed part of it or wasn't sure, go to, oh, actually, wait, here, I can also just give you the link to my current REPL, and you can just fork that. It's okay. It's okay if you miss half the stream. Who cares? I mean, I care a little. I mean, don't purposely miss it, but I feel internet issues, like, it happens. But you can go ahead and fork it from where I am now, so that way you have all the previous history. And I'll just jump in. Okay. So, does anyone know how to use, we actually didn't go over this. Does anyone know how to use the form element in HTML? If not, that's okay. I'll give it a little bit because I want to see if y'all do. Actually, oh, you do? Okay. Okay, Wombo Combo got some. I think there might be, there's a little bit I want to change, but this is pretty good for the bones. So I'm gonna do a form, and inside the form, I'm going to do a label. Okay, I'm going to do an input, and I'm going to do a button. And yes, just like 404 said, it's going to be a submit button. Look at y'all go. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make type, and then I'm going to equal to submit. So what I'm doing is I'm also going to do, I'm also going to do this input. I'm going to make the type equal to text because we want a text input. There's a lot of different other inputs that you can have that are really cool to play around with. I highly recommend that. And then I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to give it an ID. This matters a little bit for just kind of like form logistics. And then I'm also going to add a label. This label, what really matters is what is it for? And so I'm going to say it's for guests, and that's why we need the name in the input. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, one book comment, you got it 4. Okay. That being said, does anyone have any preferences on what the label should be called? I'm also going to run this really quick so you can see that. So we need, what do we want to put inside for the label, and what do we want to put inside for the button? I feel like 404 really took the opportunity of me opening up the label name to the crowd. So I guess it's called pizza now, which the button should, everything should be called pizza. You know what? I opened it to the crowd, and what the crowd wants is what the crowd gets. Run that. Okay, so now at the end of the day, this is arbitrary. So, eat pizza for the button. Yeah. I mean, if anyone wants to publish this game for random users to play, I highly suggest guess the number and guess for the labels, but Rock Osaka pizza. Y'all are amazing. Okay, and last but not least, what we're gonna want to have is, for example, okay, look at Sami. Sami has the code examples going. So yeah, if you notice the pattern, it has like form is like the outermost, and then it has a label, then it's input, label, then input. Okay. When you guess correct, you will get a pizza. I want a pizza so bad. Those Costco veggie cauliflower pizzas, I'm obsessed with those. I've been waiting for them to go on sale for like months, and I finally caved, and now I just like buy boxes to keep at home. Wrap a hyperlink around the button and and connect it to a Rickroll, please. Okay, for now, okay, so we get through this, we make this web game, whatever time we have left in the 2 hours, we'll do whatever y'all want. I'm down. Okay, so to kind of speed things up, we're gonna add a paragraph tag, and we're going to give it an ID attribute, and we're gonna give that the message ID. What I actually put in the ID is pretty arbitrary, but the reason I'm calling it, it's pretty arbitrary, but the ID and knowing what it is, as long as it matches up in the JavaScript, that's what matters. So what I'm going to do is, what this is going to do is that, you remember just how the alert says, oh, guess higher or guess lower or you're right? That's what this message is going to be. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to script. script has a bunch of different stuff. To be honest, a lot of this logic you'll know. So for example, generate a random number between 1 and 100. I'm just going to go to game.js and I am going to copy. This is what coding is, y'all. We're copying and we're pasting. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to actually use DOM, the document object manipulation. The way that you connect the JavaScript to the HTML can be done in multiple different ways. Mozilla, is that how you pronounce it? MDM, Mozilla Developer Network has a lot of great resources on this. They have a lot of really great resources on this if you want to like look up more about it. But it's I would look up like JSON, DOM, or jQuery too if you wanted to get more advanced. But for now, we're gonna keep it pretty. We're gonna keep it simple. We're just gonna use document query selector. But thank you. I now feel enlightened. But also thank you for the reassurance. I do appreciate that. Pronouncing words is not my strong suit. I feel like there's a word every day. I like read a lot as a kid, and so I learned a lot of words through reading them. And even now as a kind of adult, I like say things and my husband's like, say that again? That's not how you say that. So mozzarella. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and this one I'm gonna kind of like do for some of this. I'm gonna kind of do 4-ish, y'all, and not make you guess at it because it's a little funky. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are going to have 3 variables. Oh no, I lied. We're gonna have 2 variables. The third one comes in at the end. So one for the form. I'm gonna leave that right for now. And then one for the message. Okay. So what we're gonna also do is we are going to use the document query selector, and inside you can put a couple different things here. You can put inside like a class name, an element type, an ID, things like that. For form, because we have just one form, we're just gonna put form. We're gonna use the form element, okay? Then in message, we don't necessarily, I feel like it's pretty common for us to use like paragraph tabs. So to kind of avoid that mix up, that's where we're gonna use the ID. So the ID message. Oh, oops. So IDs have the pound sign. So we're gonna use # message or hashtag message, whatever you're more familiar with. If you remember from the CSS selectors, this may look familiar. So basically what this is doing right now is the JavaScript is like, you have a form. What does this mean? Oh, let me go back to the HTML document. Let me look for everything that says form. Oh, I see something that says form, that element that says form. I'm just gonna take it and I'm gonna save it to this variable right here. And then also like, oh, where does it have like an ID message? Oh, this p tag has a ID of message. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna save that to the message variable. Okay, so now we have this. We're gonna skip the bonus for now because the bonus is the bonus. Bonus we do at the end. So now this next part is going to be a little je ne sais quoi. It's gonna be a little tricky. So I'm just gonna give it to y'all because I think unless y'all know it, it's a little tricky. But we're doing form.add event listener submit because we had a submit button. So for like things will have, especially forms, they'll have different types of events. One event is when you click this button that has the submit type, you are going to have this event called submit. This is great for when you're filling out forms. It's basically whenever this button is clicked, then whatever code is like the function given afterwards, that's what's gonna run. So we're going to use the function. We're going to declare some kind of function. So we're going to do function, and then we're going to pass the event. The event is going to be like the submit event. And then we're going to use these curly brackets right here. And those curly brackets are going to go ahead, and that's where we're going to put the code for what we want to happen. Okay. So I'm going to, just for the cleanness of my code, I'm going to take this last curly bracket and everything after that, and I'm just going to bring that down here just so those comments actually line up with the code I want inside of it. Okay. So one of the default things that happens when you submit a code is everything disappears. So it actually is submitted. We don't actually want it to be submitted anywhere. We want it to stay exactly where it is. So we're going to do event.prevent default. So you can see, if invoked, when the cancelable attribute value is true, and while executing a listener for the event with passive, basically means it's going to prevent whatever is going to happen by default. You'll find that you'll have to do this a lot, especially in the beginning when you're doing a lot of like tutorial projects where you don't want the stuff that is in the form to like disappear right away. Okay. So now we're here, and this seems like the same logic. Also, really quick, does anyone have any questions? I know like it's technically only like 6 lines of code, but sometimes it gets a little confusing. So take a quick break. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, but I will keep my eye on the chat. Okay. So next what we're going to do is we're going to get the user's guess. The user's guess is like inside the form. So we're going to define a variable, let guess equal number. So this is me just like whatever comes into the text input is going to be a string. So I'm doing what we did before with the prompt where I'm wrapping it in the number to be like, hey, actually computer, change this to a number. So inside is like the actual input itself. I do form, because remember, form right here. And then I'm going to use the name of the input. So if you remember in index.html, did you do this name right here? I can just do form guess. Future reference, you typically don't want that name to be anything complicated. So just one word with like just the alphabet, simple. And then I want the actual value of the input. So I'm gonna do value. So that's going to give me the form variable. And the form variable corresponds with this form right here. I want the input that goes by the name guess, okay? And then I want the value of that. So form, guess, value. Then what I want to go ahead and do is this if statement here. So let's go back. Let's copy and paste essentially. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste this semi-arbitrarily right under here. Oh, I messed up my paste. Give me a sec. Copy that. Paste that. Honestly, I'm like right now, I'm on a Windows keyboard on a Mac, and that always confuses me. I also switch between my work laptop's a Windows, and then my like home laptop's a Mac, and it's confusing. Okay. So what we're doing here is we have the guess. We take the guess in from the input, and just like our previous code, we are checking to see if the guess is greater than the number, or we check to see if the guess is less than the number. Are there different keyboard layout for the OSs? No, but it's more about it's more about the fact that I switched between a Windows and a Mac. So when you're fun fact, this girl. I absolutely adore her. Met her in high school, came over to her house once, and she wanted me to look over her essay because we had English together. And she had like one of those like Macs that you can connect to like a monitor. It's like a small like desktop thingy. I've never used one. But she had it connected to a Windows monitor and a Windows keyboard. And I went ahead and I tried doing like Control C to copy. And it wasn't working. Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And it like wasn't working. So I played around. I was like, I think I didn't have a Mac at that point, but like I knew a little bit around Macs. I knew a little bit around Macs, and so I used the window button. I did Windows C because on Mac you usually do Command instead of Control. And when I did that, and I copied and pasted that essay so I could edit it, I like moved into Grammarly or something. She was shocked. She was dumbfounded. She was like, "How'd you do that?" And I was like, "What do you mean, copy and paste?" And she's like, "Yeah, how'd you copy and paste?" And that's when she told me she would just retype her papers. And like we were in high school, so it's nothing crazy, but like this girl just didn't know how to copy and paste on her computer. Anyways, I absolutely love her and we still talk to this day. But okay. Yeah. The joke, she's one of my closest friends. The joke is like, I know stuff about tech. Like she'll ask me about like what Discord is. But then she's very, like, she wants to be, like, something in the medical field. So I know nothing about bones and anatomy and, like, health issues. So I always ask her. But her typing speed wasn't insane. I think it was probably, like, 60 words per minute. Anyways, what sort of keyboard is that? Oh, this is ergonomic. I got this from work. So that's why it's like all Microsoft things. But it's an ergonomic keyboard, so the split is like a little bit nicer. It allows for things to be more spaced, so your arms are more like shoulder width apart rather than like cramped up together. And it's like, I don't know, curved for whatever reason. There's this one like $400 ergonomic keyboard that I think about a lot. I've actually been thinking about it for months, but I cannot justify spending $400 on a keyboard. Anyways, little tangent. I adore that girl. Okay. Where am I? Okay. So let me think about things. Okay. So what we're doing is we're not going to reassign, like we're going to delete this. We actually don't need this stuff here. So there's essentially one thing we want to do is we want to take what message is and message is here. Message is here, and we want to take the text content and we want to change it. So basically what this is going to do, it goes, oh, like let's look at the message element and then let's look at all the text in it. And whatever text you give me, whatever the text content is, that's what's going to show up on the screen. So simple way to do that, message.text content. If the guess is greater than the answer, then we'll say like, you guessed too high. And if it's less than, then we'll say you guessed too low. And then now is an appropriate time to use else. And we'll just make message.text content equal, yeah, you're right. And I think that's the whole game, I want to say. I like how you guys are debating bird wings. Oh, another fun story. Let's test this first and then I'll share. Okay, let's test this. Right now it's a random number, so I'm just gonna do 50. I guess too low, I'm gonna do 75. I guess too high, I'm gonna do 60. Too low, 68. Too high, 64. Too low, oh my goodness, 66. Too high, 65. I'm right. So anyways, At this point, you should have a playable game. Okay. If anyone doesn't have a playable game, let me know. While y'all are testing your game out, I'm going to share a small story. In college, I remember it was like my first year. So I was like living on campus. I walked around a lot. Also, first year was like before the pandemic. So, college actually existed. And I remember I was so perplexed because there's these flyers showing up that just said birds aren't real. And this was like during the time that like the meme of like birds aren't real are like a thing where people were like, birds are actually just a way for the government to spy on you. I don't know if you ever heard that. It's like a joke. It's a joke. It's a government conspiracy, but it's a joke. But these flyers would just show up. Also, Sin Air, welcome, welcome, welcome. You missed everything? It's okay. We're just here to have fun. If you missed everything, let me send you the replit. But all around my college campus, there's just these flyers of birds aren't real, birds aren't real. And they were everywhere. They were on like the street lamp posts, they were inside classrooms, they were inside dorms too. And for like weeks, no one knew who was doing it. And we were like, it has to be like a first year because, or like a freshman, or we just say first year. It had to be a first year because only first years live in the dorms and they were showing up all over. A couple of weeks later, we found out that it was just actually an advertisement for an a cappella concert. For this like a cappella concert, a cappella group was like a comedy a cappella group of guys. I guess their posters worked because I still think about them to this day. However, I did not go to the concert, so I don't think it worked that hard. Okay. So, for anyone just tuning in, of course, at any point you can come check out like what I'm doing right now. Check that out down there. Just because you come up late doesn't mean you can't hang out, can't hang. Okay, so now at this point we have a working game. Now, we have 15 minutes left. There's a couple things that you can do. We can make it so there is a list underneath that shares all the previous let me see if I can show you an example. It won't let me show you. Okay. There's two things that we can do. One is the bonus. The bonus is going to allow us to have a list of all our previous guesses. So like say we get like really confused on what we guessed previously and we're not sure like what to do. We'll have that list to reference. So that could be something that's like for better game playability. Or we could have lives. Or when you win, you change the background to green. And when you lose, you change the background to red. Though technically, I think you'd have to, for the losing part, I think you would need lives first. So what we got some time left. Which one would you all like to explore? Or optional, y'all can just throw something out and I can think about it to see if we can do it in the next 10 minutes. Whenever we'll just do these live streams and like I have to think like I was like, oh, this code will be like so simple to do over a live stream. It'll take like 30 minutes max. I'm wrong. It's been an hour. When you are right, you show a pizza. I got that. We got that. Okay. So when you're right, you show a pizza. This one, I'm gonna be honest, kind of simple. Shout out to you. Okay. Okay. Let's do this. I'm just put a note. So, pizza image. We're gonna look up. We're going to go to Pexels. We love Pexels. Fitness. Search. Okay. Fit. We want pizza. We want the opposite of fitness. Actually, I'm kidding. You can have pizza and be fit. Let's What's something juicy? I don't know why I'm being so picky about this. Who puts hard-boiled eggs on their pizza? Crazy. Also, yes, that is essentially what we're doing. I also don't remember how to do it right off the bat. So you guys get to we'll Google together. Okay. I'll just do like one of the first ones. But also, I'm still not over hard-boiled eggs on your pizza. That's crazy. I'm not. I mean, it's not. However you want to eat your pizza is how you want to eat your pizza. That's fine. Okay, so I'm just right-clicking and I'm copying the image address because I don't want to save it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I love Costco, and one time, I'm just gonna put that image in there, by the way. I love Costco, and my favorite thing to do is I've had the privilege to like go visit different places. So I will go to Costco when I'm in different countries. And I studied abroad in China, and we like took like we took a taxi or we metroed like 20-30 minutes away to go to Costco, and they had like 3 options for pizza. They had cheese pizza, they had Hawaiian pizza, and they had seafood pizza. And it wasn't like America Costco where you could like pick and choose the ingredients, because like I don't know if you'll remember like combo pizzas, you could like pick and choose what was on that. You can't like combine, you can't do half and half, whatever. You have cheese, Hawaiian, which is pineapple and ham, or seafood. And you're like, seafood? That's interesting. I should try that if you're me, which is dumb and naive. This seafood pizza had shrimp, it had fish, it had peas, it had like those little carrots, it had corn, you know, like that little like frozen pea veggie carrot mix that you get from like the grocery store on a pizza with shrimp and fish. And you're like, maybe I could grow to love that. And people did buy it and eat it, and there were people at the Costco food court doing that. But me, it was not great. The whole farm, yeah, facts. That's essentially what a stream with me is. I used to like Twitch stream, and then I got stressed by it, so I simply stopped. For now, I do kind of sometimes TikTok and Instagram. But now I'm trying to get into Twitter. I'm trying to segue into my CS educational life. I'm just changing the width of this to make it a decent size. Oh wait, I could just probably make this like a percentage. I'll just make this 100%. Okay. So, what do we have? Okay, so we have the image. The first thing that we need is the image. Then what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna give this a class, and I'm gonna say hidden. Then what I'm going to do, fun fact, is I'm going to put CSS in the HTML simply because I'm too lazy to make a new CSS style sheet. So I'm going to do style, and inside you can actually just put the CSS code. So everything with the class hidden, I'm going to make it display none. I had actually just done this for something else, but I don't remember. So now what I want to do is I want to okay, I'm gonna do this really quick, and then I'll check out your version 404. What I want to do is I want to remove class with JavaScript HTML. Also, has anyone been using ChatGPT? Because I will use ChatGPT. Is actually so clutch. I've definitely been using that. Okay. So I'm gonna scroll through this. I'm gonna see. Okay. So this is what's happening in the JavaScript. It's getting the element, and then there's element.classList, and then you remove the class list. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to give this an ID pizza, so I can just call the ID to pizza to make things easier. I'm gonna go into script.js. I'm going to const pizza equals document.query selector, and then I'm gonna give it the ID pizza. And then, I'm gonna add enjoy your slice just to make it cuter. And then I'm also going to do pizza.classlist.remove and hidden. That's the class name that makes it hidden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guess 50. So that's too low. I'm going to guess 75. That's too high. I'm going to guess 62. That's too low. So then I'm going to guess 68. Still too low. 73. Too high. 72. I'm just going to keep working my way down. 70. Perfect. Okay, so that's how that works. But let's check out 401's version. Okay, 404 version. Hi all, for like people who have to leave. I know we're like nearing, but I think this is gonna be the last thing. You know what? 404. It's a good thing that it live updates because I'll check out what you're doing as you're doing it. Let's see. It'll be fun. It's okay. It's all about learning. Okay. Ooh, look at you. You got some CSS. It's fancy, using hex codes, using EM. Ooh. Okay. Love this. README. I wrote that README. Oh, that's irrelevant. Okay. I'm just gonna pull it up. Oh, it's a background. That's fun. I'll just play the game on yours if anyone wants to play it. You're just designing. Okay. Well, in that case, what I'll go ahead and do is we are nearing the 2 hours now. Actually, we're coming up to the end. Let's see what else is on the schedule for Global Hack Week. So if you don't know already, gwh.mlh.io/schedule is how you can see the schedule. I personally love it. I love that you can add the schedule to the calendar. But let's see what is happening. Okay, so right now we're doing my thing. Then in 2 hours, we have Intro to Data Science. Gartic Phone is really fun. Spyfall, y'all, I hope y'all are like enjoying it. Okay, 44 says it's ready now. Let's go. I've been bamboozled. Okay, that's it. Stream's over. It's done. We're over. I feel like an apology when you say I'm sorry, but it is not much of an apology. Okay, well, in any case, while we're here, let's play the game. Okay, this is gonna be end. Everyone send in like their favorite number, whatever number you want me to guess, and we'll play it together. But just send some numbers in. You know, it's random, so no one knows. But in the meantime, I'm gonna close it out a little bit. So today was really fun. I'm going to hack your code. 404. I'm going to change the whatchamacallit. And change the CSS because it's a little dark. So I'm gonna do color and I'm gonna do white. Okay. Just hack your code. And I'm gonna start going through it. Start going through the guesses in there. 23, 57. 57 is too low. Dang, I'm still gonna guess 45. Okay, 57 is too low, y'all. But it's been really great working with y'all today. It's been really great having y'all be a part of it. This first week, I was like, I'm gonna be honest, a little nervous about streaming, a little nervous about putting together content for y'all. But this is something that like I really want to do. So I'm really glad that you came here to support. You came here to be a part of everything. And I'm, beyond grateful. I hope that you've had a chance to be a part of. It's between 67 and 88. I hope you all have had a chance to like learn something new. And if you haven't, maybe next time. But I hope you have learned something new. And if you do anything with that, please tweet me, because, well, first of all, I'm new to Twitter. I need some Twitter friends. But I also love seeing what everyone does. So over this past week, like some of y'all have been like tweeting me and like adding me and things, and I'm like, wow, it's so cute, it's so fun. And if you have any feedback, please let me know, because this is something I would love to do in a career life thing. So also, I love y'all hackers. You're so sweet. You're so nice. You're so kind, and I love the MLH community. There is nothing bad. Flexbox Foggy, let's go. Also, I'm glad you learned Bootstrap. Okay, I really do appreciate you guys. Okay, wait, it's between 67 and 82. I do want to finish this before I go. 67 and 82. What numbers do we want to guess in between that? 67, 82, 70. Too low. So 70 to 82. Okay, what do we have? 74. Too high. Okay, so I'm gonna skip the 75 and the 80. I'm gonna do 72. 72! In my version, a pizza slice would have showed up. And this one, we were rickrolled. No, I love it. I'm so glad that you guys could be here today. I can't wait to see what y'all do with the rest of Global Hack Week, and I hope to see you at more in the future, and I hope to stream more in the future. So yeah, tweet me whatever y'all work on. I love seeing websites. I love seeing your projects. Tweet me whatever you work on. Make sure, if you haven't already, make sure that you check in hackpack YFW3 check-in. If you want to look at any of the code, it's on my GitHub. Yeah. So again, I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and head off. It's getting late for me. It is like 9 p.m. over here on the West Coast. I don't know where y'all are, but please, I love seeing improvements. But thank you so much, and good night. It's been an absolute joy being with all y'all. Oh, you're in India. That makes sense. And the East Coast, we love that. I love the East Coast. I want to go back. So shout out to everyone who is either here in the morning. Make sure you eat some brunch. Make sure you hydrate. And shout out to anyone who is staying up. Make sure you go to sleep soon. Also make sure that you hydrate. But I will see you all soon. And let me know what you do for the rest of Global Hack Week. Thank y'all. Good night. Good morning. Whatever it is.